Hello everybody, welcome back to Read and Reread. I am Angelia, and today it is time for the June TBR. It's magnificent, it's audacious, it might be delusional, but it's all mine and I'm really excited about it. There's so many events in this month and then the summer and then already ongoing events, and they're all wonderful and I can't possibly do them all. So I'm going to talk about a lot of events, and the thing that made this TBR hard to organize is that so many things overlap and double dip. So here's the proof of my attempt to organize. I have an entire sheet of paper instead of just a post-it note of my efforts to wrangle this into a reasonable presentation. So if you're watching and it doesn't seem like a reasonable presentation, you will know at least I did try. I tried really hard. Before I get into all the books and events, I want to share with you this new t-shirt that I got. Let me back it up. Read outside your comfort zone. And here's the logo from where I got this t-shirt. This is from one of my favorite booktube channels, Supposedly Fun. Greg at Supposedly Fun and his husband Joel recently rolled out a launch of merch. There are lots of fantastic t-shirts, and there's mugs, and there might be hats. I can't remember what all's in there. There's a whole lot of really fun logos and designs, and I picked this one because I like to remind myself and everybody else that it's always good to stretch your boundaries, try something new, read outside your comfort zone. Why not do it this summer? I will put a link to Greg's channel in the notes. You can go down there and check out all the great merch and enjoy the content and all good things. Excited about the shirt. I'm also excited about these books and these events. So let's talk about it all. So the overarching event that corresponds to most of the books in this pile and overlaps with most of all these other events is Pride Month. It is Pride Month in June in the United States, and it is a time to recognize and celebrate, as far as reading is concerned, authors from the LGBTQIA+ community and books and stories, fiction and nonfiction, that represent their experiences. And now it is more important than ever with the climate of hostility in the United States and attacks on people's personal freedoms and civil liberties, and attempts to roll back laws that guarantee equal rights for all people. So with all that in mind, as I traveled through the different events, I tried to match up books that were in my collection, in my TBR, that I haven't yet read, that would be representative of Pride Month. So the first book is one that I just received as a gift from Mother's Day that you saw in the little mini haul a week or two ago, and that is Awakened by A.E. Osworth. This is a brand new book that just was released a few weeks ago, and it just sounds really fun. It is about a person named Wilder, who is a non-binary Brooklyn resident who wakes up one morning and they can understand all languages. This magical power just suddenly lands on them, and then they discover that there is, I guess it's a coven of trans witches who all have experienced a similar awakening and have some kind of magical power, and they form a community. They take in Wilder, and then they go crime fighting against some sort of evil AI entity. So the whole thing sounds absolutely nuts and fun, and it has really good reviews. I think it's good to always inject something that is purely fun into your TBR, especially if your other material is challenging or heavy. Make sure there's a dash of fun in there somewhere. Now, we have a couple of buddy reads that are also for Pride Month. And in addition to a dash of joy and buoyant fun in your month, you also need a dash of murder. So we have Strangers on a Train by Patricia Highsmith. This is going to be a buddy read with my friend Michael Clark. Last year, and I'm pretty sure it was in June, we read The Talented Mr. Ripley, and we were both surprised at how great it was. I mean, we thought it was going to be good, but it was really, really good. It was one of my favorite books of the year. And so we decided we needed to read some more Patricia Highsmith. So it's going to be Strangers on a Train. And this is about two men who meet on a train. One is in the midst of a divorce, and then he meets, I guess, a total psycho on this train who has a very dark proposition for him. I found out that the back gives a little too much away, so I'm not going to read it. But it sounds rather diabolical and, again, very entertaining. And this was written in 1950, and it was made into an Alfred Hitchcock movie pretty soon afterward, which I have never seen, but I might try to see it after I have read the book. I don't want to know too much about it in advance because I just really like the way she writes, and I'm sure it's going to be dark and twisty and weird, just like The Talented Mr. Ripley. The next one is A New Life by Tom Crewe. I missed the train, strangers or not, a couple years ago when everyone was reading this and hoping that it would be on the Booker list, and then it wasn't. I kept thinking, oh, it sounds good, and then I never read it. And then I found it at the library book sale a few months ago and picked it up, and it's time to read it now. And so this is historical fiction, which is going to qualify it for another event that I'll talk about in just a moment. This is set in 1894, and it's about two men writing a book that presents the case that homosexuality, which they call sexual inversion in their book, is, quote, natural, harmless, and should be decriminalized. These are both married men, and in both cases, their wives know that they have relationships with other men. They have different types of marriages, and they're apparently from this blurb, how their wives respond to this fact. And then Oscar Wilde gets arrested and put on trial, and it gives them pause about whether or not they should go forward with their book. And they have different points of view on this. And so it's an incident. I don't know if the men are fictionalized and they just inserted the part about Oscar Wilde, or, yeah, I'm not sure. So I'm going to find out when I read it. Now, there is an event that I want to talk about at this juncture, and it is called Read Historical Fiction 2025. And there are multiple hosts of this event. I heard about it on Melinda's channel, A Web of Stories, but I will list all the hosts in the notes. And this is about reading historical fiction in June. So your historical fiction could combine with a pride reading like mine. It could combine with June on the Range that we're going to talk about in a few minutes. It could combine with a lot of things, or it could just stand by itself. But a couple of my books do qualify for this event. And really, you just have to read any historical fiction. But there are some prompts and categories if you want to pursue those challenges. So I will link the host below, and you can find out more by watching their announcement videos. So The New Life, Buddy Read with Michael, Pride Reading, Historical Fiction. And it also qualifies for one of my Storygraph challenges on Melinda's Web of Stories challenge, and she has a category about I don't know if it has to be historical fiction. I think it's just a fiction book that has a real life character in it, a famous person, and Oscar Wilde is in this book. So I'm knocking that one out too. But if that's not good enough, I've got another historical fiction book with a real life character in it, and it's for Pride Month. And that is The Master by Colm Toibin. You know I love Colm Toibin. And this is one that I've had for quite a while. And that's why it also qualifies for another Storygraph challenge from Ben Reads Good, which is Reading Shame Forgiveness Month. Read a book that has been sitting around and you feel really guilty that you haven't read it yet. Here it is. The Master is about Henry James. And it's about how Henry James, he was an American, but he spent most of his life in Europe, and it begins when he writes a play and it bombs, and then he turns to the fiction that he is best known for. But then it's also about his sad private life. Colm Toibin captures the exquisite anguish of a man whose artistic gifts made his career a triumph, but whose private life was haunted by loneliness and longing, and whose sexual identity remained unresolved. Henry James circulated in the grand parlors and palazzos of Europe. He was lauded and admired, yet his attempts at intimacy inevitably failed him and those he tried to love. So I'm looking forward to, I love Colm Toibin. I'm looking forward to this fictionalized version of Henry James's life. He is an author, James, that I have struggled with. I've had success and failure, but I keep coming back around to him and being intrigued and wanting to read more of his work. So I think this might motivate me to go a little further. I'm going to start out with rereading this month. I'm going to pair the master with a rereading of a Henry James book that I have read and enjoyed in the past and I've been wanting to reread, and that is Washington Square. And it's one of his shorter ones, and I have found that I really do better with Henry James shorter rather than longer. So novellas, short stories, this short novel, it works better for me than when I have tried to wade through one of his longer books. Maybe it's me, I don't know. This is going to qualify for Pride Month, and another event, the 60 Before 60 reading event that I am hosting for myself, that starts in June and goes all the way till October 2026, where I'm reading 60 particular books before I turn 60. 30 of them are rereads that I have been meaning to get to, and 30 of them are speculative fiction, and I'll talk about that category a little bit later on in the video. So this is going to be my initial debut of the 30 Before 30. No, the 60 Before 60? Well, the 30... haven't even started, I'm already confused. This is about Catherine Sloper, the plain and quiet daughter of a prominent physician. Her beautiful and charming mother died when Catherine was an infant, and comparing his daughter to his wife, Dr. Austin Sloper finds the former lacking. Yet he still fiercely looks out for Catherine when she becomes involved with Morris Townsend, whom he regards as a scheming fortune hunter. Sloper threatens to disinherit his daughter when she insists on marrying Townsend, but Catherine defies him for the man she loves. Yet this first attempt to assert her independence sets in motion a series of consequences that utterly transforms Catherine and the world she has known. I remember that setup, that her father tries to interfere and direct her. So I know I read it. I remember those characters. I remember that I liked it. I don't remember what happened, so I'm going to have a good time reading it again. And then we have a book published in 1924 that I thought was published a little bit earlier, and that's Brideshead Revisited by Evelyn Waugh. This is the selection in June for the banned book club that I attend at my public library. And it is a TV tie-in cover, but it's the TV tie-in from this PBS show that I think was in the 1980s that I remember watching. And I read this book back in the 80s as well as a teenager. I remember nothing. I do remember something about a rich family and a friend comes to stay, and maybe there's a love triangle. I can't exactly. That's all I got. Have you read it more recently than I have? I'm looking forward to it. This is another author that I have been meaning to circle back to. I have a couple of books of his on my shelf, and then there's a couple others that I've heard about that sound really good. So if you have any other Evelyn Waugh suggestions, throw them in the comments. And at this moment, we will interrupt this Pride list to share another book that I'm going to read as a buddy read in June, and that is Fight Night by Miriam Toews. This is going to be a buddy read with Amelia, who is a viewer and a participant in many booktube events. I'm sure you're familiar with her from channels you watch and reading events that you have participated in. And we scheduled this a ways back and to find a month that we were both open to read. So Fight Night, this will be my third book to read by Miriam Toews. I have read All My Puny Sorrows and Women Talking, both fabulous novels. So I'm really excited. I love the cover of this. I found this for like $1 at this library book sale, the one in the cellar in the bottom of the public library in San Antonio. That's just the best used bookstore. So this is about a young girl who lives with her grandmother. Here's a little bit of the description. Swift's grandma, Elvira, has been fighting all her life. From her upbringing in a strict religious community, which is a common feature in Miriam Toews' books because she comes from a Mennonite community. That's where she grew up. She has, in Canada, she has fought those who wanted to take away her joy, her independence, and her spirit. She's fought to make peace with her loved ones when they have chosen to leave her. And now, even as her health fails, Grandma is fighting for her family. for her daughter, partner Listen in the third term of a pregnancy, and for her granddaughter Swiv, a spirited 9-year-old who has been suspended from school. Cramped together in their Toronto home on the precipice of extraordinary change, Grandma and Swiv undertake a vital new project, setting out to explain their lives in letters they will never send. Woo, is it epistolary? I do love an epistolary novel. This was published in 2021. I just know it's going to give me the good book tingles from page one. I just love this author, and even though I'm progressing slowly through her work, I'm really excited about it. So I'm looking forward to reading this with Amelia this month. Another event that's specific for June is June on the Range, which is dedicated to reading Westerns in the month of June. This also has many hosts, and I will list them in the notes. I watched an announcement video by Greg of Another Bibliophile Reads, and I've seen a couple other videos that weren't host videos, but just people talking about what they plan to read, and it sounds like everyone is going to have a good time. I have two contenders, and this is one of these categories of I haven't decided yet. So this is a very small pile of possibilities, but let me show you. Well, first of all, I have a very long contender that's not going to be in the video. You probably know what it is, a very long, famous, very beloved mammoth of a Western. That is going to appear in another video that I'm going to do in a couple of days about Big Book Summer. So stay tuned for that. That's coming up separately because I want to read some of these longer books, but they're going to happen in the June and July, no, the July and August part of summer, because June was already planned up to the rafters. So I'm not forgetting about it. I'm just going to delay it. So that book's coming up later. But as far as June is concerned, I have two possibilities. One of them actually would qualify for Big Book Summer because it's just over 400 pages, and that is The Buffalo Hunter by Stephen Graham Jones. This is the other book that Emma gave me for Mother's Day, and I have heard so much good feedback about how fantastic this book is. It's also historical fiction. It qualifies in historical fiction, Big Book Summer, and June on the Range. It's a triple dipper. It's about a vampire that is seeking revenge for atrocities committed against the Blackfeet Nation. And he's having a series of interviews with a journalist, I guess, and telling his story. So there's an indigenous vampire seeking revenge, and it's supposed to be absolutely marvelous. My other one is one that I have for quite a while, and it is significantly shorter. So if I really run tight on time, I will be happy to read True Grit by Charles Portis. I picked this up at the library book sale most recently, the most recent one I went to, and I've been meaning to read this for quite a long time. Again, another book that I'm always hearing is so excellent. Why do I keep doing this? I saw the more recent film version of it. I didn't see the old one with John Wayne. It is about a girl named Maddie Ross. She's hunting down the person who shot her father. She is accompanied by one-eyed Rooster Cogburn, the meanest available U.S. Marshal, and pursues the killer. I really like the characters in the movie, but I know the book is better, so I have it on hand, and I'm not sure which of these two books I will read for June on the Range. All right, now we're getting into some ongoing events, things that go every month, and what they have in store for June. So first of all, we have Reading the Globe, which is hosted by Roz from Scally Dandling About the Books and Katja from Page Turners with Katja. I will put their links below. And the June book, I'm so excited about it. I talked about it in my little haul video the other day. It's The Third Love by Hiromi Kawakami. The translator is Ted Goossen, translating from the Japanese. I loved Under the Eye of the Big Bird. It's one of my favorite books so far this year. And it started this whole family thing because I loaned it to Emma, and then she loaned it to her boyfriend, and then she went and bought a collection of short stories by Kawakami. She said, these are the weirdest stories I've ever read in my life, so I really want to get a hold of those. And then now we're going to read The Third Love. And this is about a woman who is unhappy in her marriage because her husband has cheated. She meets up with an old friend named Mr. Takaoka. I always get stuck on his name. And he teaches her how to live inside her dreams. And she travels through the centuries in her dream life and experiences life as a courtesan in the 17th century, as a serving lady to a princess in the late Middle Ages. She has love and heartbreak through these centuries and reconsiders her current life. So I'm expecting strange situations, weird vibes, and excellent company in the Discord that is through Katja's channel, where we will be discussing the third love for reading the globe. In my reading project, Endless Drama, where we are reading plays from the 20th and 21st century, our June play in honor of Pride Month is The Inheritance by Matthew Lopez. And this is, instead of doing 2 plays this month, we're only doing 1 because it's a 2-part play that's a little bit longer. And I did cheat. I started reading this last night. I'm getting a little leg up on it. And it is inspired by Howard's End. It's about gay life in New York City 3 decades after the height of the AIDS epidemic. It won a Tony Award in the year that it came out, which I think was 2017? Went 2019. It started in London, moved to Broadway, and it says explores relationships and connections across age and social class, and asking what one generation's responsibilities may be to the next. Ian Forster is actually a character in the play. I've only read the first few pages, but he actually walks in and begins talking to this group of young men. I'm not exactly sure how Howard's End specifically comes into the story, but the setup is quite intriguing. My other project that is just starting this month is my 60 Before 60 project. I mentioned there's 2 halves. The rereading half, which I'm just going to announce each month in my TBR, but the other half, the speculative fiction half, does have a public Discord event that anyone can join. And I'll put the invite link down below again. I did a announcement video a couple of weeks ago, and I will be reading 2 books each month that I've been meaning to get to, or sometimes they're brand new. But I love speculative fiction and science fiction, and there's lots and lots of books, a big old backlog of reading. So I decided that that would be part of my focus of my project, is to read 30 books in this category that I'm really wanting to read between now and my 60th birthday. So the June selections both will qualify for your Pride reading if you're still looking to add to that list. One of them is Toward Eternity by Anton, who is better known as a translator of Korean fiction into English, but this is his debut novel written in English, and it is a science fiction novel. In the near future, a new therapy promises to eradicate cancer by entirely replacing the body's cells with nanites, android cells that not only cure those afflicted but also render patients virtually immortal. When literary researcher, oh, I like that. That means there's going to be like literature is going to sneak in. Yong-hoon, himself a recipient of nanotherapy, teaches an AI named Panet how to understand poetry. He creates a living, thinking machine. But when Yong-hoon mysteriously vanishes into thin air and then just as suddenly reappears, the event raises disturbing questions. What happened to Yong-hoon? And though he's returned, is he really himself anymore? So it's interesting to me how science fiction always reflects the concerns of the day. So a lot of the things I'm seeing coming out right now tend to fall into climate fiction, political tensions with authoritarian governments, which is a perennial theme of dystopian fiction. And then now there's a lot of books that have to do with the worries about AI and the use of technology. The Dream Hotel would be a recent example that I read. And then the book I showed a few minutes ago, Awakened, has an AI villain, and then AI plays a role in this book as well. So I'm very intrigued. Maybe I shouldn't put it over there. I'll put it over here. The other one is Gliff by Ali Smith, an author that I've been meaning to read for a long time, and finally I'm going to read it now. She is releasing a second book that is a companion book or a sequel to this one later this year. So I'm excited. I'm hoping I love it so much that I will want the second book. And this is some kind of a dystopian novel that is very lightly described. An uncertain near future, a story of new boundaries drawn between people daily, a not very brave new world, and two children and a horse. From a Scottish word meaning a transient moment, a shock, a faint glimpse, Gliff explores how and why we endeavor to make a mark on the world. In a time when Western industry wants to reduce us to algorithms and data, there it is again, something easily categorizable and predictable, Smith shows us why our humanity, our individual complexities, matter more than ever. I like the theme. It doesn't tell me much about the plot, but I like the theme. We are almost to the end of this pile, and I probably have forgotten something. But I think the last thing I want to talk about, oh, no, two things. Midsummer Night's Dream. That is our June selection for the Bard Room, hosted by Melinda. It is on her Discord, and it is devoted to reading the works of Shakespeare. Most months we read a play. In April, we read poetry. In May and December, we don't read anything. Those are break months. In June, we are reading A Midsummer Night's Dream. I'm excited because it has been a long time since I read it, and I love that play. And okay, this is the final part. Last but not least, every month I read at least one nonfiction book, and I've also started a daily reading of poetry into my life, and I'm going to meld them together this month. For my nonfiction, I'm going to read this lovely book that was sent to me as part of a gift from my friend Michael that I showed you when I did a haul video with that gift, and it is Mary Oliver's Poetry Handbook. It is a guide for both readers and writers of poetry. I am not a writer of poetry, but I am a reader, and I'm really looking forward to her guidance and her wisdom in how to access and get more out of poetry when I read it. And I have a little bookmark in that gift. There's a vintage postcard in each book that Michael sent with a little note in it about why he selected that, and so I have a little built-in bookmark. So I'm going to read this every day. There's poems in here, but to extend it, I'm also going to refer to this collection that is on the Poetry Foundation's website of LGBTQ plus Pride poems, a collection of poems and essays on topics and themes of identity, gender, and sexuality. So I'm going to combine Pride, nonfiction, and poetry reading. And then the poems are broken into categories. There's feeling proud, feeling ambivalent, on queer poets, and articles, essays, and interviews. So that is my plan. I think a lot of these poems and poets I do have in various anthologies that I have here at home, but I like how it's gathered together and has categories. So I think I will pair these things up together, and that will be my nonfiction and poetry adventures this month. What have I forgotten? Let us consult the list very quickly. This is just like being at the grocery store. No matter how many times I look at it, as soon as I get home, I know what I forgot. Well, I don't see anything I forgot. I'll have to check with you later if it comes to mind. I'm afraid this video is outlandishly long, and I will try to trim it down, but I hope that you also have an exciting month plan. I'd love to hear about your June plans or anything, any thoughts on any of these books that I am endeavoring to read. If I don't get to all of them, they will just roll over throughout my summer, and that's fine. I'm not really, I'll do the best I can, but I just want to have a good time reading and talking to people about books. So have a great, what is today? It's Monday. Have a great week, and I will see you soon. I'm going to try to come back Wednesday and do a separate video about Big Book Summer and some of those longer books that I've been meaning to get to. Probably won't be in June, so I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.